What's up everyone, I'm Eldridge and today I want to talk to you about Total War Warhammer, a game that I'm looking forward to quite a bit. I'm going to make a little bit of a video series about Total War Warhammer until its release, and the first thing I'm going to establish is that I'm going to call it Total Warhammer because Total War Warhammer is horribly redundant and hard to say in conversation. So in this first video I want to ask the question, what is Total Warhammer? Total Warhammer mainly consists of two parts, the Total War franchise and the Warhammer franchise. The Total War franchise is one of the longest running strategy game series on the PC. It marries a turn-based 4X strategy game such as Civilization with the sort of real-time strategy action that you would get in a game like StarCraft. The gameplay is separated into two parts. On the overland map, you build up and manage your cities and territory, you raise armies, you siege cities to grow your territory, you upgrade your troops and your technology, and all of this is done in a turn-based fashion. But whenever two armies meet, or when you are attacking a city, or when somebody is attacking one of your cities, you get asked if you want to auto-resolve the battle or if you want to fight the battle manually. If you auto-resolve the battle, the AI will calculate who wins based on the number of troops you have and their equipment and experience, and of course also based on the lay of the land, and various other factors such as keep defense and morale. If you, however, choose to fight the battle, the game immediately switches into battle mode. And in this mode, you get to control your armies on the field in real time. Single-player battles have a pause button and also have a function to speed up the gameplay, but the battles are intended to be played in real time, and you truly feel like a battlefield commander. So far, Total War has always been historical, and that's really cool. I mean, look at how cinematic this is. The series has visited a multitude of historical periods, such as the classical period in Europe, the medieval period, the Dark Ages, the 18th century, the 19th century, and the 15th century in Japan. But now for the first time, Total War is going high fantasy, as it uses the popular franchise Warhammer Fantasy Battles for its source material. Warhammer Fantasy Battles was a fantasy miniatures wargame with an over 30-year history, until it was killed off by Games Workshop and replaced with this abomination. Luckily, however, Warhammer Fantasy Battles has not been forgotten, and the guys at Creative Assembly decided to make a game about the old Warhammer. And so Total Warhammer is actually going to use the Warhammer Fantasy Battles universe as it was before the end times. Warhammer Fantasy Battles pitches various fantasy races, Gribblies, monsters, and Renaissance Germans for some reason against each other in an alternate version of what is basically planet Earth. And seriously, there are all sorts of different races that Total War is going to be able to pull from. For starters, in Total Warhammer, we're going to be able to fight across the old world. It is the main continent of Warhammer Fantasy Battles where everything started, and the game will start out with 4 races. The noble human empire, the noble and majestic dwarves, the ghastly and fiendish vampires, and the destructive orcs. We can already be sure of one additional race, the Warriors of Chaos, as they have been promised as a pre-order bonus. However, it is not entirely clear yet if they are going to be available right at launch or if they will be available later and then will just be added for free to those who pre-ordered the game. And in some of the videos that Creative Assembly uploaded to YouTube, we've also seen a 6th race, the Bretonnians. So I'm guessing that the Bretonnians will be an early DLC, and it does make sense, because they are also humans, so it shouldn't be as hard to implement them as it would be to implement some of the other crazy races like the Skaven or the Lizardmen. But the really cool thing about this universe is that there are so many more races that they could handle. I already mentioned the Skaven and the Lizardmen, but there are also 3 types of elves, the High Elves, the Dark Elves, and the Wood Elves. There's Ogres, and Chaos Dwarves, and the Tomb Kings of Khemri. And there's also way more to the world of Warhammer beyond the old world. So if Creative Assembly wanted to, they could potentially support the game for years. Although my more cynical side thinks we're probably just going to get a Total Warhammer 2 at some point. Now, Total War games can usually be played either as campaigns where you have the overland map and the games go on for many turns and you have many battles, or you can just play single one-off battles. So even if you don't have a lot of time and you just want to get one of those epic battles played, you can just jump in and play a single battle. And usually you can also play both the campaigns and the single battles in both single player and multiplayer. As far as I know, there has not been any confirmation yet as to whether this is going to be in Total Warhammer as well, but it has been for the last couple of Total War games, so I personally kind of just expect it at this point. However, Total Warhammer is definitely going to bring some new features to the formula that are really going to shake things up. And I've said for years that I would love a fantasy version, whichever IP they would go with, of Total War, because there would be so many cool options with magic and big monsters and flying creatures, and that's exactly what they went for. Besides the factional tech trees that have been in Total War games since forever, there are also now named characters. And these named characters have their own specialization trees that will change how their armies work and what they bring to your faction. These named characters, such as Karl Franz, the Emperor of the Humans, will also have their own epic quest lines that will help build the narrative of your campaign, and they will also get you magical items to improve the abilities of your generals and your armies. Furthermore, there will be plenty of flying units because the Warhammer universe has a lot of them. Dragons, wyverns, zombie dragons, pegasi, griffins, giant eagles, and let's not forget the dwarven gyrocopters. The Warhammer universe has them all. And all of them will help to add a certain third dimension to the battlefield that you usually don't have in Total War games. Usually you just have to watch out for what's in front of you and what's behind you. But now you'll also have to watch out for what's above you. You thought you have your archers protected behind your wall of swordsmen? Well, think again, because that wyvern just flew straight over the swordsmen, landed in your archers and ate them all. Warhammer Fantasy Battles of course also has magic and magic users. We've already seen a little bit of the magic, and I personally have to say it looks a little bit overpowered. Now, I have played Warhammer Fantasy Battles as a tabletop game before. And yes, the magic in that game is pretty strong, but I do think for a Total War game, it's probably better if it's not entirely as devastating as it is in a miniatures game, just because it's gonna be more fun. But I probably don't have to tell you how many possibilities are added to the game through a magic system. You can have buffs and debuffs, stuff that simply wouldn't make sense in a historical setting. You can have giant fireballs and comets falling from the sky. And all of it just serves to enhance the experience of playing Total War. Now, there is of course much more to talk about, and I will do so, but in another episode. If you enjoyed my very first look at Total Warhammer, please consider liking, and if you haven't already, also consider subscribing. What do you think about Total Warhammer? Let me know in the comments, because I really am curious about what you guys think of the game. I'll see you in the next episode when I'll go a little bit more in depth about the minor differences that a fantasy setting is going to bring to Total War. But until then, I've been the CloakingDonkey, and I'll see you in another video.